certified is they can make it for anybody, and that's what's ideal. They can retrofit your putter. And I tell you what, the main thing that it helps me in doing is lots of times when I'm on tour, well, all of us will have periods where we don't putt very well. But for me, most of the time when I don't putt very well, it's because my hands get a little fast, and I use kind of a fairly light putter.
When Scott Hoch says, "I never respected him," he's not joking. He's naming 5 golf icons he couldn't stand. And what makes this story wild is that these weren't just competitors he disliked. These were legends, champions, places that most golfers would bow down to. But Hoch, he went to war with them. This is the story of a man who looked at golf's holiest shrines and biggest stars and said, "No thanks." And he didn't whisper it, he screamed it. In a sport built on politeness and tradition, Scott Hoch became the guy who refused to play along, and it cost him everything. Before we dive into who made his list, do me a favor. If you're loving the story so far, hit that hype button and show this video some love. It helps us keep bringing you the wildest golf stories you won't hear anywhere else. Alright, let's get into it. Number 5. St. Andrews and British golf culture. Most golfers treat the old course at St. Andrews like a religious site. It's the home of golf. Legends have walked those fairways. Players speak about it in hushed, reverent tones. They talk about feeling the history beneath their feet. They describe it as a pilgrimage, a bucket list moment that transcends competition. But Scott Hoch, he looked at it and saw a disaster. To him, it wasn't sacred, it wasn't special, it was a joke, and he made sure everyone knew it. Hoch grew up playing American target golf. You hit a shot, it lands where you aimed, and it stays there. Predictable, fair, scientific. The greens are lush and green. The fairways are manicured. You can calculate your yardages and trust that the ball will respond the way you expect. St. Andrews is the opposite. It's links golf. The ball bounces like it has a mind of its own. A perfect shot can roll into a bunker. Terrible shot can bounce onto the green. Course is firm and fast. It's brown, not green. The wind can turn a good round into a nightmare in minutes. Hoch hated that randomness. He wanted control. And St. Andrews gave him chaos. Here's what he said, word for word. St. Andrews is just a field of weeds. Most overrated course in the world. I'm not going to fly across the ocean to play a course that isn't even fair. Let that sink in. He called the home of golf a field of weeds. He said it wasn't worth the flight. This wasn't a private complaint to a friend over drinks. He said it publicly, on the record. The British golf world lost their minds. The tabloids tore him apart. They called him the most hated man in British golf. They painted him as the entitled American who couldn't handle a real challenge, the soft millionaire who wanted everything handed to him on a silver platter. But Hoch didn't back down. He doubled down. In 2000, he withdrew from the Open Championship at St. Andrews. He said he wasn't interested. Even mentioned his wife didn't want to go back. That withdrawal was the final insult. To skip the Open at St. Andrews isn't just rare. It's unthinkable. Most players would give anything to compete there. But Hoch did it anyway because to him, the course wasn't a test of skill. It was a lottery. He refused to play a game where luck mattered more than talent. He rejected the entire philosophy of links golf. The idea that you had to accept the rub of the green and adapt. To Hoch, that was nonsense. Golf should reward precision, not randomness. Number 4. Greg Norman. By the mid-1990s, Greg Norman was golf royalty. Great white shark, global icon, charismatic, aggressive, rich beyond belief. He had the looks, the swagger, the game. He was on magazine covers. He had endorsement deals that dwarfed most players' prize money. But Scott Hoch saw something different. He saw ego. A man who wanted to blow up the system that gave everyone else a chance to make a living. Hoch wasn't going to stay quiet about it. The flashpoint was 1994. Norman proposed something called the World Golf Tour. It was a breakaway league. Limited field, only the top 30 or 40 players in the world. Massive purses, global events staged in glamorous locations. Sound familiar? It was basically the concept that became LIV Golf decades later, and Hoch hated it. He hated everything about it. Here's why. Hoch was a grinder. He played 30-plus events a year, made his money through consistency, not stardom. He showed up week after week, grinding out top 10s and top 20s. That's how he built his career. Norman's tour would have destroyed that. It would have created a 2-tier system where the stars got richer and everyone else got left behind. The regular PGA Tour would have been gutted of its best players, leaving the rest to fight over scraps. Hoch saw it as an attack on the middle class of the PGA Tour. He became the loudest voice against it. And he didn't hold back. Greg thinks he's bigger than the game. This world tour is just another way for him to feed his ego. He forgets that the rest of us have to make a living too. That quote is brutal. Hoch was saying Norman cared more about his own brand than the ecosystem that built him. And he wasn't wrong to be worried. PGA Tour existed to give opportunities to the top 125 players, not just the top 10. Norman's plan threatened that. Threatened the livelihoods of hundreds of players who weren't superstars but were still excellent golfers making good money. But beyond the economics, Hoch just didn't like Norman's style. Norman arrived in helicopters, he launched clothing lines, he played with swagger that bordered on arrogance. He took risks on the course that seemed designed more to look spectacular than to win tournaments. Hoch, who kept a low profile and valued hard work over flash, found all of it repulsive. Norman famously collapsed at the 1996 Masters, blowing a 6-shot lead to Nick Faldo of all people. Hoch likely saw it as karma. In Hoch's mind, golf punishes arrogance. Norman's meltdown was proof. The game had humbled the shark, and Hoch probably felt vindicated. Number 3. Tiger Woods. By the early 2000s, Tiger Woods was untouchable. Best player in the world. A global phenomenon. He'd completed the Tiger Slam, holding all 4 major championships at once. He was on every commercial, every magazine cover. He transcended golf. To criticize Tiger was to invite the wrath of the entire sports universe. But Scott Hoch did it anyway. The moment came at the 2002 Ryder Cup at the Belfry. The Ryder Cup is supposed to be about teamwork. It's the one week where individual stars become part of a collective. Egos are supposed to be checked at the door for the good of the team. The U.S. team was struggling. They were dysfunctional. The chemistry was off. Hoch decided to say what others were thinking but wouldn't dare voice. Tiger is out there for Tiger. Sometimes you wonder if he even wants to be part of a team. He's the best in the world, but he's not exactly the best teammate. That's a bombshell. Hoch was accusing the world's number 1 of being selfish, of caring more about his brand, his sponsors, his pursuit of Jack Nicklaus's records, and the success of Team USA. And there was some truth to it. Tiger was raised to be a lone wolf. His entire identity was built on individual dominance. His intimidation factor in stroke play didn't translate to team dynamics. Playing partners often felt the pressure of playing with Tiger more than playing against the Europeans. They felt like they couldn't make mistakes, but they had to live up to Tiger's standard. That pressure became suffocating. Hoch, who valued the camaraderie of the team room, did how the entire setup had to bend around the Tiger brand. Around that time, Woods was doing American Express commercials. Hoch, that focus on corporate deals right before a Ryder Cup was wrong. It showed where Tiger's priorities were. He saw Tiger as a corporation disguised as a golfer, a marketing machine that happened to play golf, not a golfer who happened to have endorsements. The backlash was fierce. Media called it sour grapes. Critics pointed out that Hoch struggled during the matches too, missing fairways and putts. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. He was a guy criticizing the best player in the world while he himself was playing poorly. But Hoch stood by his words. Now feuded with the dominant player of the 80s in Norman, the 90s in Faldo, 2000s in Woods. Pleaded a trifecta of antagonism against golf's kings. He didn't care what anyone thought. Number 2, Faldo. If you want to understand why Scott Hoch became golf's angriest man, to start with Nick Faldo. Faldo wasn't just a rival, he was the ghost of Hoch's greatest failure, and who wore the green jacket that Hoch believed should have been his. And Hoch never forgave him. Not after a year, not after a decade, never. The wound started at the 1989 Masters. Hoch and Faldo went to a sudden death playoff, finishing regulation tied. On the 10th hole, the first playoff hole, Hoch had a 2-foot putt to win the tournament. 2 feet. That's a gimme in a casual round. That's the kind of putt you'd tap in without thinking. But under the pressure of Augusta, with a major championship on the line, with the green jacket waiting, Hoch froze. He spent an agonizing amount of time over the ball. You could see the doubt creeping in. When he finally struck it, the stroke was weak, tentative. Ball slid past the hole. Missed. On the next hole, the 11th, Faldo buried a 25-foot birdie putt to win the green jacket. But here's the thing. Hoch never accepted that Faldo won. Instead, he framed it like this. He didn't win that jacket, I handed it to him. He's a great player, but he's as cold as a block of ice. Hard to respect a guy who doesn't even acknowledge his peers. That line is loaded. By saying he handed it to Faldo, Hoch was protecting his own ego. He was saying he was the better player that day, and Faldo just got lucky. That Faldo didn't earn it through skill, but through Hoch's mistake. And maybe there's a grain of truth there. Hoch was in control until the final moment. But golf doesn't care about almost. It cares about the score, and the score said Faldo won. The block of ice comment goes deeper. It reveals how much Hoch despised Faldo's personality. Faldo was known as the Machine. He'd rebuilt his swing from scratch with coach David Ledbetter to eliminate mistakes. He was robotic, focused, often silent on the course. He didn't chat with playing partners, didn't engage. He existed in his own world, totally absorbed in his process. And Hoch, who was emotional and talkative, that repulsive. There's even a story from the Swiss Open that captures their clash perfectly. Hoch hit a ball into a bunker that rested against a rock. He didn't know there was a local rule allowing players to remove stones. Faldo knew the rule, but he stayed silent. He offered no help. To Hoch, that was a betrayal of the gentleman's code. Golf is supposed to be a game where you help each other understand the rules. You're competitors, but also colleagues. Faldo, it was just competition. That incident reinforced everything Hoch believed, that Faldo was cold, ruthless, someone who cared nothing for his peers. And when Faldo went on to win 6 majors while Hoch won 0, that gap only deepened the bitterness. Every time Faldo was praised for his mental toughness, Hoch probably felt it like a knife. Number 1, Augusta National and the Masters. This is the big one, the root of all of Scott Hoch's anger. Augusta National wasn't just a golf course to him, it was the villain, symbol of everything fake and unfair in the sport. And it all goes back to that 1989 playoff. After missing the putt, Hoch could have done what most players do. He could have blamed himself, taken responsibility, worked through it with a sports psychologist, moved on. But he didn't. Instead, he turned his rage on the course itself. He attacked the greens. He attacked the tournament. He attacked the entire institution. Here's his most famous line: "I don't like the way they run the tournament. It's too restrictive. The greens are like putting on a marble floor in a dark room. I don't care if I ever go back." That marble floor metaphor is vicious, saying the greens are so fast and so slick that skill doesn't matter. Once you hit the ball, you lose control. It slides and you can't predict where it's going. Random, unfair. By comparing them to a dark room, he's saying you can't even see what you're doing. You're putting blind. He was accusing Augusta of manufacturing difficulty instead of creating a fair test. He called the tournament committee stuck up. He said the atmosphere was artificial. Blooming azaleas, the perfectly raked bunkers, the whole pristine image. To Hoch, it was a facade. A fake utopia designed to humiliate players for the entertainment of rich members. And then he did the unthinkable, he boycotted the Masters. For several years after 1989, he refused to play. He threw away his invitation. In professional golf, a Masters invitation is the golden ticket. Players dream of it their entire careers, some never get one. To throw that invitation away was seen as insane. Career suicide. But Hoch did it to reclaim his power. He was saying his dignity mattered more than the prestige, that he wouldn't be treated like a circus animal performing for the amusement of the establishment. That boycott cemented his status as an outsider, a man who'd rather be right than be a champion. So what's the pattern here? What connects all 5 of these targets? It's simple. Scott Hoch hated what he couldn't control. Couldn't control the speed of Augusta's greens. He couldn't control the bounces at St. Andrews, couldn't control Faldo's mental dominance, or Tiger's brand power, or Norman's tour politics. And instead of accepting that, he fought back. He rejected the romance. He rejected the reverence. He turned golf's greatest icons into enemies. But here's the thing, despite all the feuds and all the bitterness, Scott Hoch had a successful career. He won 11 PGA Tour events. He made millions of dollars, competed at the highest level for decades. He was a really good player. His story reminds us that golf isn't just polite handshakes and green jackets. Beneath the surface, there's real resentment, real class struggle, real human emotion. Hoch was the voice of the worker who looked at golf's cathedrals and saw a rigged game. He saw the marble floors and the artificial difficulty and the egos and the politics. And whether you think he was right or wrong, you can't deny he said what others wouldn't. He refused to bow. He refused to pretend he loved something just because tradition said he should. And that takes guts. Scott Hoch's hate list is a reminder that even in golf's polite world, there are people willing to speak truth to power even if it costs them everything.